Have you ever felt like you are fighting the tide of life? What would it be like if, instead, you learned to ride the waves, letting things flow? Today, we'll explore 7 practical strategies inspired by Stoicism to transform your life. Are you curious? Stay until the end, because the last tip is a game changer. In today's fast-paced world, we often try to control the uncontrollable, which only brings us frustration. But the ancient Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, taught us that true serenity comes from accepting what we cannot change. In this video, you will learn 7 Stoic strategies that will help you let things flow more lightly and wisely. Shall we start? Chapter 1. Understand what you can control. Certain truths about life have an almost cruel clarity. Among them is the notion that we spend a lot of our time trying to control what is not within our power. It's like trying to hold tight to beach sand. The tighter you squeeze your fingers, the more it slips away. There is an undeniable power in recognizing the limits of what we can influence, a kind of freedom that only emerges when we accept the edges of our own power. Imagine that life is a big stage where different plays are being performed simultaneously. Some of these pieces are yours. You choose the plot, write the lines, determine the climax. Others, however, belong to other directors, other actors, other audiences. When we insist on rewriting scripts that don't belong to us, it's as if we were trying to play the piano while wearing a glove. The melody will always come out disjointed. The philosopher Epictetus, in his wise simplicity, taught that there are only 2 categories of things: those that depend on us and those that do not depend on us. It is a dichotomy that seems obvious, but which, in its practical application, has the power to transform lives. The secret is to accept that there are limits and, paradoxically, find greatness precisely within them. This is where the question arises: why do we insist so much on fighting against what we cannot change? Is it pride? Is it fear? Or was it simply the habit of wanting to take control of everything in our own hands? There is a story, one that could easily have come out of an old tale, about a man who lived in a small village. He spent his days trying to change the course of a river that, over centuries, had sculpted his landscape. With shovels, stones, and stubbornness, he dedicated his life to the task. When he died, the river was exactly where it had always been. The man, however, had spent all his strength and failed to take advantage of the beauty that the river offered along its route. This narrative reminds us that our energy would often be better spent learning to swim with the current rather than trying to divert it. If we turn to practice, there is something deeply refreshing about pausing to reflect. Am I worrying about something that I can actually change? The answer to this question is often a breath of relief. After all, you don't have to carry the weight of the whole world on your shoulders. However, this simplicity should not be confused with passivity. Recognizing what is beyond our control is an act of courage, not weakness. It requires clarity of thought and brutal honesty with yourself. Think of a storm. You cannot stop the rain from falling, the winds from howling, or the thunder from echoing in the sky, but you can close your windows, seek shelter, put a kettle on, and wait for the storm to pass. This attitude of preparation is what differentiates those who understand control from those who allow themselves to be consumed by external chaos. It's a type of wisdom that comes with practice, with experience, and perhaps with some scars acquired along the way. The magic of this perspective is how it redefines what power means. Power is not in shaping the world to our will, but in shaping our will to the world. It's a subtle but monumental adjustment. Suddenly, what once seemed like an insurmountable barrier becomes a simple detour on the path. Instead of obsessing over doors that don't open, we learn to find hidden windows, or perhaps even build our own exits. And isn't it fascinating how this lesson can be applied to virtually every aspect of life, relationships, work, health, dreams? Everything takes on new light when we stop wasting energy on battles that can't be won. Imagine the relief of letting go of, struggling with something that was never your responsibility to resolve. It's like letting go of a weight you didn't even know you were carrying. In the end, there is something deeply poetic about this process of acceptance. It is not resignation, as many may think, but a harmonious dance with reality. By embracing what we can control and releasing what we cannot, we become lighter, wiser, more alive. After all, as a wise man once said, the wind doesn't obey orders, but you can adjust the sails. Chapter 2, Practice. Temperance. Temperance. The word itself carries a softness that seems to whisper in the ear. Balance, calm, moderation. It is a virtue that, however, is often hidden under the dust of the modern world, where everything seems to run at high speed and in ever-increasing volumes. But practicing temperance is like learning to tune an instrument. When we get the harmony right, the music of life sounds lighter and more pleasant. Temperance is not a denial of pleasures, but an invitation to moderation. Think of a lavish feast. There is a moment of delight in every dish, but there is also the risk of overdoing it. Eating more than necessary turns pleasure into discomfort. That's how it is with life. When we give ourselves without limits to anything, be it work, fun, or even rest, we end up losing the grace that balance provides. Moderation is the seasoning that enhances flavors without overpowering them. Stoic wisdom places temperance as an essential pillar. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that it is better to live like a calm river than a stormy sea. In practical terms, this means being deliberate in our choices, avoiding extremes. It's not about renouncing ambitions or pleasures, but about managing them intelligently. Imagine a glass being filled with water. If you pour the liquid too quickly, it will overflow. But if you fill it carefully, the glass stays full without waste. Such is life lived with. Temperance. Why then do we allow ourselves to be carried away by excesses? Perhaps it is the promise of immediate happiness, a search for pleasure that ironically becomes a path to dissatisfaction. After all, what starts as a moment of joy can quickly turn into a burden when we exceed the limits of what is necessary. It's like chasing the wind. No matter how much we try to grab it, it always escapes us. There is a quiet charm to temperance that we only realize when we practice it. It doesn't scream, it doesn't demand attention, but it subtly transforms our days. A simple example is that of a gardener who takes care of his plants with patience and dedication. He does not pour water all at once, but waters little by little, allowing the soil to absorb each drop. This same approach can be applied to how we spend our energy, our time, and even our feelings. Isn't it better to offer constant, balanced love than a passion that burns quickly and goes out? Practicing temperance is also an act of self-knowledge. It involves recognizing our own limits, something that is not always easy. There are those who confuse temperance with weakness, as if controlling one's impulses were a sign of a lack of courage. However, the opposite is true. It takes strength to say enough when everything around you screams more. It is an act of resistance against a world that often pushes us towards excesses. Imagine the following scene. A young artist works tirelessly on his painting. He doesn't eat, doesn't sleep, ignores everything around him. The result? An unfinished work and an exhausted body. Now think of the same artist who balances work and rest, who knows when to stop to renew his strength. His art flourishes, not only because of the quality of his work, but because of his care for himself. That's what temperance is. The understanding that taking a step back sometimes allows us to move forward with more strength. Another facet of temperance is how it teaches us to more deeply appreciate what we have. When everything is abundant and immediate, the value of things is diluted. But when we learn to measure our desires, we rediscover the joy in small pleasures. A sip of coffee on a cold morning, a brief but meaningful conversation, or silence after a long day. It is these moments that temperance highlights and amplifies. It's not easy, of course. We are creatures driven by impulses, and in many cases by the constant search for more. But temperance is not a goal to be achieved all at once, but rather a daily practice, a slow construction. It starts with small choices, saying no to something that doesn't serve us, taking breaks, avoiding exaggeration. Over time, these small actions accumulate, creating a fuller, more serene life. In the end, temperance reminds us that life doesn't have to be a roller coaster of ups and downs. It can be a peaceful path, filled with meaningful moments where each choice is made with care and purpose. It's like a candle that doesn't burn too quickly, but shines steadily. Balance is, after all, the secret to an existence that not only survives, but flourishes. Chapter 3. Accept the flow of life. Accepting the flow of life is, for many, an uncomfortable idea. There's a natural uneasiness in thinking that we can't control everything, as if our willpower can somehow bend the universe to our demands. However, there is a serene and powerful beauty in simply letting life take its course. This is not about resignation, but about wisdom. Like a sailor who learns to navigate the currents instead of fighting against them. Marco Aurelio, in his Meditations, he wrote, "Accept everything that happens as part of the fabric of the universe." It's a simple phrase, but it carries immense depth. Imagine that life is like a river. The flow is constant, unstoppable, indifferent to our desires. You can choose to resist the current, spending all your energy without moving forward, or you can learn to navigate, adapting to the paths that the water offers you. This choice defines the difference between frustration and serenity. The act of accepting the flow of life is not passive, it's an active movement, a deliberate decision to let go of the control we never really had. Think about the nature of a storm. We can't stop it from arriving, but we can prepare our home, put on a raincoat, and perhaps even enjoy the poetry of the wind that accompanies it. Resisting the inevitable only amplifies suffering, while embracing reality allows us to find peace even in the midst of chaos. Some say that accepting the flow of life is like dancing with an unpredictable partner. Sometimes the music speeds up, other times it slows down, and at specific moments there seems to be no rhythm at all. But the secret is to allow yourself to be led by the music, instead of trying to impose your own steps. It's not the dance that adjusts to you, it's you who learns to flow with it. A story that illustrates this idea well is that of a wise farmer, always praised for his calmness in the face of unexpected events. When heavy rain destroyed his crops, his neighbors expected him to despair, but he just smiled and said, "Let's see what this will bring." Weeks later, the region's soil proved more fertile thanks to the water that had penetrated deeply, allowing an even better harvest. He understood that fighting what happened would be futile, while accepting the flow could reveal hidden opportunities. Accepting the flow does not mean giving up on our dreams or abandoning responsibility. It's really about adjusting our focus. Imagine an arrow being shot by an archer. He can control the bow's tension, his stance, and the initial direction, but the wind midway is out of his reach. Trying to force the impossible would only lead to frustration. The same happens with us. We must do what we can and then trust that the rest will unfold as it should. There's also a certain humility in accepting the flow of life. We recognize that we are just a small part of something much bigger, an intricate tapestry that connects everything. When we understand this, we realize that not everything revolves around us, and that this is something liberating. Just like a stream that encounters obstacles along the way, life will always find a way to continue. What is up to us is to decide whether we want to be part of this movement or resist futilely. This acceptance also teaches us to be kinder to ourselves. How many times do we blame ourselves for not being able to change what is beyond our ability? It's like trying to stem a tide with your bare hands. Recognizing our limits is not weakness, but a form of wisdom that allows us to direct our energy where it really matters. For many, the idea of embracing flow can feel like giving up your identity or your ambitions, but it's exactly the opposite. By stopping fighting the uncontrollable, We gain clarity to focus on what really matters. It's like a runner who discovers that running against the wind doesn't take him any further, but only tires him out. When he learns to use the wind to his advantage, he moves forward with more ease and purpose. In the end, accepting the flow of life is a way of trusting not in a fixed destiny or a mystical plan, but in the ability to adapt that we all possess. It is recognizing that, like the waters of a river, life finds its way regardless of our efforts. When we let go of the weight of absolute control, we discover something surprising, the freedom to be part of, something bigger, vaster, and infinitely more beautiful. Chapter 4. Resilience through perspective. Resilience is a word that carries within it the strength of storms and the lightness of a new dawn. It's the ability to bend without breaking, to find an alternative route when the path closes, to stand up even when the ground seems to have disappeared beneath your feet. But what makes resilience so fascinating is that it is not an innate talent, a gift reserved for a few. It is, in fact, a skill built from the broken pieces of the adversities we face. Life, with its unpredictable twists and turns, makes no concessions. It challenges us, tests us, and often leaves us on the brink. However, it is in these moments of chaos that resilience finds its voice. Imagine an oak tree in the middle of a fierce storm. Its branches sway violently, but its roots, deep and firm, keep it upright. That's how we are. The roots we cultivate, our experiences, values, and learnings sustain our strength even when everything around us seems to be falling apart. It is not uncommon to see resilience described as a muscle that needs to be exercised. After all, no one becomes resilient in an instant. It takes time, practice, and unfortunately, challenges. Every difficulty we face is an opportunity to strengthen this invisible muscle. However, this does not mean we should romanticize suffering. Overcoming is not about forgetting pain, but rather learning to coexist with it so that it does not define us. It's transforming the weight of the burden into a firmer step. There is a story that is repeated in different cultures, that of the phoenix that rises from the ashes. This metaphor is a perfect portrait of resilience. Not because it suggests we should start from scratch after every fall, but because it reminds us that even in our worst crises, there is always the possibility of rebirth. It's like looking at a cracked wall and, instead of lamenting its fragility, seeing in it the potential to build something even more solid. Resilience is not, however, an impenetrable armor. Being resilient doesn't mean being insensitive, but rather finding ways to carry on despite the pain. Allowing yourself to feel, cry, regret is part of the process. It's like a wave that recedes and then returns with more force. Perspective is what gives us this renewed strength, the ability to look at our struggles not as a punishment, but as an opportunity for growth. Think of an experienced sailor. He does not avoid storms because he knows they are inevitable. Instead, he learns to read the sky, adjust the sails, and navigate skillfully, even when the sea is rough. Thus, resilience teaches us to face difficult times without losing sight of the horizon. It's not about eliminating problems, but finding a way to move forward, even if it's one small step at a time. Interestingly, resilience is also deeply connected to acceptance. Recognizing that there are things we cannot change frees us to focus on what is within our reach. It is not a resigned acceptance, but one that empowers us. As Seneca said, adversity awakens in us abilities that, under favorable circumstances, would remain dormant. Every challenge is a reminder that we are stronger than we think, more capable than we imagine. Resilience, however, is not a solitary path. While we often pride ourselves on facing our battles alone, the truth is that support from others can be an invaluable foundation. A friend who listens, a word of encouragement, or even an example from someone who has already overcome something similar can make all the difference. It's like a lighthouse in a dark night, showing that we are not alone and that there is indeed a path to follow. There is also a particular beauty in the resilience that emerges when we look back. The scars we carry tell stories, not of defeat, but of overcoming. They are markers of our journey, reminders that we have weathered storms before and emerged stronger. It's like a river that, over the years, carves its own path, leaving a trail of resilience at every bend. At the end of the day, being resilient is a choice. Not to avoid pain, but to face it head on. Not to deny the difficulties, but to transform them into learning. Not to seek a life without problems, but to find in each obstacle an opportunity to grow. And so resilience becomes not just a skill, but a way of living, a commitment to the strength that exists within each of us. Chapter 5. Practice Stoic meditation. Practicing Stoic meditation is like opening a window in a room full of shadows and letting in the light. It is not a distant or inaccessible ritual, but a moment of introspection that connects us deeply with our essence. It is an exercise that does not require absolute silence or elaborate postures, but just the willingness to face one's own mind, as if it were a mirror that reflects our actions, desires, and fears. The Stoics, such as Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, saw meditation as a daily practice, almost an intimate dialogue with oneself. Marco Aurelio, in his Meditations, he did not write for others, but for himself, as a way of organizing his thoughts and reaffirming his values. Imagine the scene: a powerful emperor ruling a vast empire, finding time to reflect on his mortality, his responsibilities, and life's inevitable challenges. This practice was his anchor, a constant reminder of who he was and what really mattered. Stoic meditation is not about emptying the mind, but filling it with purpose. It's a time to examine the day, revisit choices, identify flaws, and celebrate small victories. There is no room for harsh judgments or suffocating regrets, but rather for honest learning. It's like a gardener taking care of his garden. He removes the weeds, cultivates healthy plants, and plans how to make the space flourish. Thus, the mind becomes fertile ground for serenity and self-control. Practicing this meditation can start with simple questions. What did I do today that aligned with my values? Or where have I let myself be carried away by emotions or impulses that I could have controlled? These questions do not seek perfection, but growth. It's an exercise that challenges us to be honest without becoming our own worst critics. Like a patient teacher, Stoic meditation teaches us to look at our failures as opportunities to learn rather than as causes for blame. Imagine an ancient merchant who, at the end of each day, sits by candlelight to review his transactions. He analyzes where he succeeded, where he lost, and plans how he can improve the next day. This simple ritual reflects the essence of Stoic meditation, a daily balance that helps us stay the course, even in rough seas. It is a habit that, when cultivated, provides us with clarity and direction. Another important aspect of this practice is the focus on what we can control. During meditation, we are invited to distinguish between what is in our hands and what is beyond our reach. This distinction is liberating. We cannot change the past, but we can learn from it. We don't control the actions of others, but we can choose how we react to them. This perspective gives us a sense of real power, based on what we can really influence. There is also a preventative component to Stoic meditation, known as premeditation of evil, or evil premeditation. In this exercise, we imagine possible difficulties or challenges before they happen. This does not mean living in a constant state of worry, but preparing the mind to face adversity with balance. It's like a soldier who equips himself before a battle, or a traveler who studies the map before leaving. This preparation makes us more resilient, less likely to be surprised by the unexpected. But Stoic meditation is not just an exercise in mental discipline, it is also an act of gratitude. As we reflect on the day, we recognize not only the challenges, but also the blessings we have received. It's an opportunity to be grateful for the small moments that, in the whirlwind of routine, often go unnoticed. A sincere conversation, the warmth of the sun on a cold day, or simply the chance to start over. This practice reminds us that even in the midst of difficulties, there is beauty and meaning to be found. The simplicity of Stoic meditation is one of its greatest assets. It does not require a special environment or sophisticated tool. It can be practiced in silence at the end of the day, or even in a moment of pause during the rush. The essential thing is intention, looking within, examining our actions and thoughts, and renewing our commitment to virtue and wisdom. In the end, practicing Stoic meditation is like polishing a dusty mirror. Little by little, it reflects a clearer and more faithful image, revealing not only who we are, but who we can become. It is a continuous journey, not to reach a perfect state, but to walk, day by day, towards a more whole and balanced version of ourselves. And in the process, we discover that true power lies not in controlling the world around us, but in mastering the world within us. Chapter 6, be grateful for the gift. Being grateful for the present is like opening our eyes to a picture that has always been before us, but that we are only now able to see in all its beauty. It is an exercise in perception, a conscious choice to value what we have even when what we desire still seems distant. Gratitude, in the Stoic view, is not just a reaction to happy moments, but an active practice that transforms our relationship with the world and ourselves. Imagine the present as a calm stream flowing beneath your feet. He is there, offering his water, his freshness, his tranquility. But often, we are so concerned with looking for the grandest river, the most imposing waterfalls, that we ignore the simplicity of the flow that surrounds us. Gratitude is the art of reaching down and touching that water, recognizing its value, even if it is not the ocean we dream of. The Stoics, in their timeless wisdom, remind us that happiness lies not in possessing more, but in appreciating what we already possess. Epictetus, for example, argued that what we have today was often what we wanted in the past. However, our gaze often fixates on the horizon of desire, missing the treasure that rests right next to us. Being grateful for the present means breaking this incessant cycle and finding contentment in the now. There is a particular beauty in gratitude for what seems small or ordinary. The air we breathe, the smile of a stranger, the comfort of a simple meal. These moments, when viewed through the lens of gratitude, reveal themselves to be extraordinary. It's like finding hidden gems in a forgotten chest. The act of recognizing these small gifts makes us realize that even in adversity, life still offers us reasons to smile. The practice of gratitude is not just a philosophical ideal, but a powerful tool for facing everyday challenges. By focusing on what we have rather than what we lack, we redirect our emotional energy into a state of abundance. This does not mean ignoring difficulties or giving up on aspirations, but rather finding balance. It's like adjusting the focus of a camera. By aligning the perspective, we see the entire scene, not just the dark areas. A practical exercise suggested by the Stoics is nighttime reflection. Before bed, take a moment to revisit the day and identify 3 things you are grateful for. It doesn't have to be something grand. A pleasant conversation, a kind gesture, or even the fact of having overcome a challenge are already valid reasons. This simple habit, when cultivated, trains us to find beauty and meaning in even the most mundane experiences. Being grateful for the present also connects us with our mortality, a central theme in Stoicism. The reminder that our days are limited, far from being a reason for sadness, is an invitation to value the here and now. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not act as if you had 10,000 years to live. Death is at your door. While you live, while you can, be good." This perspective is not bleak, but liberating, as it reminds us that every moment is a unique opportunity to live fully. There is something profoundly transformative about gratitude when it becomes a constant state of mind. Imagine a traveler who, instead of regretting the kilometers still to go to his destination, decides to admire the landscape along the way. He notices the flowers, the birdsong, the ever-changing sky. This is life when seen through the lens of gratitude, not a journey full of faults, but a journey full of unexpected beauties. Interestingly, gratitude is not only beneficial for those who practice it, but also for those around them. When we are grateful, we radiate positive energy that inspires and contagious. A simple, sincere thank you can transform someone's day. It's like lighting a candle in a dark room. Your light, no matter how small, illuminates everything around. By expressing our gratitude, we create a self-perpetuating cycle of kindness. However, being grateful for the present does not mean ignoring pain or challenges. Life, with its imperfections, will continue to test us. But gratitude gives us a solid foundation, a point of support in the midst of chaos. She reminds us that even in storms, there is always something to be grateful for, even if it is the learning that difficult times bring us. Ultimately, cultivating gratitude is like planting a tree in fertile soil. At first, it may seem like a small, almost insignificant effort, but over time, this tree grows. Its roots deepen, and its branches expand, offering shade, fruit, and shelter. This is gratitude. A seed that, when nurtured, transforms not only our present, but our entire worldview. Chapter 7. Let go of the past. Letting go of the past is like letting go of a heavy suitcase that we have been carrying for a long time, even when it no longer serves us. Stoicism teaches us that life happens in the present, and the weight of the past, if kept on our shoulders, only prevents us from living fully. It's not about erasing memories or denying what happened, but about transforming scars into marks of wisdom and moving forward, lighter and more aware. Imagine a leaf fallen into a river. She floats, following the current without resistance. The past, when allowed to flow, is like that leaf. It goes away, becoming part of a larger course, but not an obstacle. However, when we hold on to it, it's like trying to hold water with our hands, a fruitless effort that wears us down without results. Stoics, like Seneca, remind us that life is too short to be consumed by regrets or heartbreaks. He wrote, "While we waste our time hesitating and delaying, life speeds up by holding on tightly to the past. We often miss the present, the only time we can truly act, change, and live." Letting go of the past is, first and foremost, an act of freedom, a gift we give to ourselves. Freeing yourself from the past does not mean ignoring its lessons, but accepting it as something that cannot be changed. Imagine a sculptor in front of a block of marble. He cannot undo the cuts already made, but he can use them to create something beautiful. Thus, our experiences, even painful ones, can be shaped to strengthen and guide us. Letting go is not forgetting, but transforming. We often hold on to the past because it has become part of our identity. A defeat, a loss, or a heartache can define us if we let it. But Stoicism challenges us to see ourselves beyond these stories. Marco Aurelio wrote, "You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this and you will find strength. By letting go of the narratives that hold us back, we regain control over who we are and who we want to be." Consider the example of someone who missed a great opportunity. For years, this person mentally revisits every wrong choice, every moment that led to loss. This cycle of regret and self-punishment is like walking in circles, never moving in place. But by letting go of the past, she can finally look ahead, see new opportunities, and realize that life continues to offer paths. There is a Stoic practice called forethought of the future, which is imagining adversity before it happens. Conversely, letting go of the past requires a meditation on the past, or meditation on what has already passed. By revisiting these events with compassion and an objective eye, we can recognize what we have learned, release the pain, and then move forward. It is not about romanticizing the past, but about integrating it into the whole of our existence. Letting go of the past is also an act of courage. It requires looking at our wounds and accepting that some things cannot be fixed. Like an old house that has collapsed, sometimes the only option is to rebuild. And in this reconstruction we find strength and resilience. After all, it is in ruins that the most solid foundations often emerge. However, there are times when the past disguises itself as security. Memories, even painful ones, can become a comfort zone, an excuse not to face the present. Letting go of the past requires honesty. We need to ask ourselves if we are stuck in it because we fear what comes next. It's like letting go of the edge of a pool to learn to swim. The beginning is scary, but the freedom that comes after is worth every moment of uncertainty. Stoicism teaches us to accept the natural flow of life, which includes changes, endings, and new beginnings. Zeno of Citium, founder of Stoicism, said that we must live in accordance with nature, and nature is constantly changing. Letting go of the past means aligning ourselves with this movement, allowing the new to enter our lives. In the end, letting go of the past is like opening your hands to receive something new. As long as we hold on to what no longer serves us, we have no room for what is to come. It is an act of faith and renewal, a step towards a fuller and more meaningful life. After all, who we are is not defined by what we leave behind, but by what we choose to carry with us and what we decide to build from here. Now you have 7 Stoic strategies to let things flow. Which one will you apply first? Don't forget that constant practice is the secret to reaping the fruits of this transformative philosophy. If you liked this content, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell so you don't miss any videos, and leave your like to support our work. Until next time, video description 7. Strategies to let things flow. Stoicism. Discover how Stoicism can transform your life with 7 practical strategies for accepting the flow of life, finding serenity, and achieving true happiness. This video delves into Stoic philosophy and shares valuable teachings from thinkers such as Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius. Learn to understand what you can control, practice temperance, and balance your emotions. Let go of the past and live the present with gratitude. Develop resilience and face challenges wisely. Incorporate Stoic meditation into your daily life. Leverage practical examples, deep reflections, and powerful insights to adopt a Stoic mindset and transform your perspective on life. Why watch this video? If you are looking for more serenity, wisdom, and personal growth, this content is for you. Let's explore together how Stoic philosophy can guide your choices and provide a fuller and more balanced life. Related tags. Here's philosophy, versus Stoicism, versus personal growth, versus wisdom, here's resilience, serenity, Marco Aurelio, base of personal development, reflection, versus life lesson, Hirsch meditation, Hirsch happiness, Epictetus, Seneca, Stoicism philosophy. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any content about philosophy and personal development. If you liked it, leave a like and share this video with friends who also want to learn more about Stoicism and emotional balance. Share your experience in the comments. What did you think of the strategies? Which of them do you already practice in your daily life? Stoicism in practice, Stoic wisdom, Stoic philosophy.